Death, death, death comes sweeping down. Filthy death, the leering clown. Death on wings, death by surprise, veiling evil from worldly eyes. Death that's born as life succumbs, while death and love, two kindred drums, beat the time till judgment day, an actor in a passion play. Without beginning, without end, evermore. Amen. That's just one of the memorable and highly quotable lines from the greatest magnum opus ever to be committed to celluloid. The pinnacle of the filmmaker's art, the greatest movie of all time. The Wizard of Oz, Metropolis, Star Wars, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca? Fuck no. Della Morte, dell'amore. From Italian meaning of death of love, better known in the United States, to the extent that it's known at all, by the title Cemetery Man. So, every once in a while I do the errant film review on my channel, and some people in the audience have been asking me to make a video of, like, the best movies, like, what's your list of the best films of all time? And I'm not going to make that video, and I'll tell you why. I'm an OCD turbo autismo that obsesses over details. If you force me to make a list of anything, the best films of all time, the worst films of all time, the best breakfast cereals of all time, it's exquisite torture, because even if I make a 3-hour-long video with hundreds and hundreds of films, I'm going to be kicking myself at the end like, fuck, you forgot to mention this. Fuck, you forgot to mention this. Damn it, can I make the video again? Can I go for a fifth and a sixth and a seventh take? I'm not going to do that to myself. I don't need that kind of aggravation in my life. So instead of making a list of the best films, and by the way, I'm a film guy, okay? I really am. A lot of people who have been watching my channel for a long time know I actually worked in the Hollywood film industry as a background extra, as crew. I've done all kinds of things. I've seen way more movies than any human being should. I'm familiar with the work of all the greats, Fritz Lang, Akira Kurosawa, Andrei Tarkovsky. I know film. I know movies. So if you're wondering why I don't really talk about that on my channel a lot, allow me to quote Harold and Kumar. Just because you have a 13-inch dick doesn't mean you have to do porn. It's just not what I want to do with my YouTube channel. You know, I'd probably blow up if I did. If I turned this into a film review channel, I'd probably get hundreds of thousands of subscribers. But it's just not what I want to do. I just don't care. I like talking about politics and news and shit. I just don't do it. But I know film. And I decided that, you know, instead of trying to make a list of the best movies ever made, because I'll never be able to make a complete list, and it's just gonna trigger me to attempt that. I'm just gonna talk about the one film that if you could only watch one movie in your life, this would be the one, and you didn't miss a damn thing. The one film with a scope so ambitious that the subject matter is nothing less than life itself. And it actually, you know, you could say that about a lot of movies, right? Because there's a lot of movies that sort of have that ambitious scope, like Cloud Atlas or something. You see, you ask somebody, what's Cloud Atlas about? They say, it's about life, right? But they always fail. I mean, and how can you succeed when you set your sights that high, right? One film does. One movie actually does. The film that, if some kind of alien consciousness, some trans-dimensional being from a different plane of existence contacted me and said, can you explain the human condition to me? I would say, watch Cemetery Man. and I would feel like I did an adequate job of explaining what it means to be human. A film that's so massive. It's so it's such a bottomless pit of meaning. It's like the Kabbalah of movies. You could spend your entire lifetime studying it, and on your deathbed, you still wouldn't have figured out all of it, and you'd still be discovering more and more layers of meaning. A film that I own on VHS, even though I don't have a VCR, and I don't need to watch it anymore because I've seen it so many fucking times that I can play it in my head from start to finish, and I can see every detail, remember every line of dialogue from the opening right to the end before the credits roll. Because I've spent an appreciable portion of my life watching this movie. You know, when I'm dying years from now from heart disease or pancreatic cancer or whatever it is that finally does me in, if somebody were to do the math and say, hey, we tallied up how much of your life you spent watching this movie, and it ended up being like 0.5%, maybe even 1% of your total time alive on the planet Earth you spent watching one movie over and over and over again, I'd say, fuck, that's it. I wasted my life. I should have gotten a few more watches in. That's how good this movie is. Are you exaggerating? Are you overselling this? Fuck no, it is that damn good. Why haven't I ever heard about it? 'Cause you're stupid. It's that fucking good. You're not stupid. Why haven't you heard of this movie? There's a lot of reasons why. Okay, look at the box. Let's start with that, okay? 20th Century Fox, Cemetery Man. Here's a quote that says, frightfully funny. That's by Amy Dawes of the Los Angeles Daily News. Frightfully funny, right? It makes it sound like some kitschy fucking horror film, which in a way it kind of is. I mean, technically speaking, this is a zombie movie. Like Night of the Living Dead. But no. The theme is there's zombies in the film, okay? But to call it a zombie movie would be such a gross oversimplification. Is there humor in the film? Yes. Is it funny in spite of itself? At times, yeah, it is. Is it intentionally funny? At times, yeah, it is. But to call it a comedy, it would be like, you know, calling Shakespeare just a satirist because he wrote Falstaff as one of his characters. It would be such an oversimplification to just call this a comedy movie, to just call it a horror movie, because it's so much more than that. This is a film that explores the deepest existential meaning of what it is to be human in a zombie flick about a cemetery caretaker who kills zombies. How can I describe the greatest movie ever made? I can tell you that the director couldn't. Is this my favorite movie of all time? Yes. Is Michele Soavi my favorite director of all time? Fuck no. I've always believed that an artist's work can transcend the artist himself. I think if you asked Michele Soavi to explain this film, he probably wouldn't be able to do it. He'd probably fall really short. I've seen his other work, and if you expect his other movies to be as good as Della Morte Dell'Amore, they just aren't. Something happened on the set of this film. The stars aligned. There was a muse there, imbuing everybody with inspiration. I don't think anybody could ever explain how this film got made. There has never been another film like Della Morte Dell'Amore, and there never will be. It's unique. It's one of a kind. It's just something that you have to experience. to understand, and you still won't be able to understand it. I can't understand it fully. So, you've really spoken about this movie in grandiose terms, Chris. Can you give us a little bit of context about it? Sure, I can. Okay, well, to start off, it's an Italian film. It's actually a French-Italian collaboration that's filmed in Italy. Now let's start off with the technical aspects. So somebody who's really into film, movies are your thing. Technically speaking, this is a masterpiece. The cinematography is breathlessly beautiful, as you would expect from something that's filmed in the rural Italian countryside. You know, all the shots are beautiful, right? The pacing is executed with the skill of a martial arts expert. All the timing in it, the movie is perfect. The character development, everything is the way the shots are framed. Every single shot of the film, you could frame it and hang it on your wall, and it would look like a masterpiece. Any shot in the film, just pause it, and you're playing it, hit pause at any time, and you've got something that belongs on the wall in the Louvre. It's how fucking good this film is. The soundtrack, unique, memorable. The soundtrack itself is almost as good as the movie. So just analyzing, deconstructing it with the eye of like somebody who analyzes film. The technical aspects of it, spot on, perfect, flawless, beautiful. Now let's get into the themes a little bit. First of all, it stars Rupert Everett. To the extent that an American audience is familiar with this guy at all, I'm sure some of you know who he is. Most of you probably don't. If you know him at all, you probably know him for chick flicks and romantic comedies, because that's his wheelhouse. That's what he does. He's the guy from My Best Friend's Wedding. He's in films kind of like this one here, The Importance of Being Earnest with Reese Witherspoon. Why do you have that on DVD? I just fuck you. I have a lot of movies on DVD. I have a lot of movies. But you know, this is what this guy does. He doesn't step out of his genre very often. He's got this really specific oeuvre that he works in, which is romantic comedies. He usually plays like the dashing Lothario in a romantic comedy, and into chick flicks, which is ironic because he's gay. So it's kind of like Rock Hudson. From back in the days, Rock Hudson always used to play like the dashing, square-jawed ladies' man, but in real life, he was I think the first celebrity to die of AIDS. He kind of put AIDS on the map. So that's Rupert Everett. You know, if you know the guy at all, he just mostly acts in chick flicks. He mostly acts in romantic comedies. He's never done another movie like this one. Why did he do this film? Why did Rupert Everett act in a zombie flick? Essentially, it is a horror movie, but so much more. The reason why is because he was probably flattered that the appearance of the character he was playing was based on him. See, this movie is based on a comic book that you also probably haven't heard of called Dylan Dog. This is Dylan Dog right here. Now, if you're a real comic book dork, you probably do know what this is, because it would be hard to ignore one of the top-selling comic books in the world. Worldwide, this sells a lot of fucking print copies. There's a lot of Dylan Dog readers out there, but it never really made inroads into the United States for reasons I can get into. And it's an Italian comic, by the way. It's by the genius Tiziano Sclavi, Great fucking writer, incredible writer. Not too much of his work has been translated into English. Now, this comic is big everywhere in Western Europe. It's big in Yugoslavia. It's read all over the world, but it's not really read in the United States. One of the reasons why is copyright issues, because one of the main characters in this comic book is a look-alike of Groucho Marx, whose name also is Groucho Marx. And the estate of Groucho Marx can exercise their copyright here in the U.S. So when this is printed in the on the rare occasions when this gets printed in the U.S., and I think Dark Horse owns the rights, they have to change things around, and also it just isn't it's just not an American comic book. That's I don't want to sound too pretentious and insult them. I am American, okay? I am, so I understand, but European audiences just ask for more from a comic book. That's the only thing I can say. And comic book fans in the U.S., you should already know this. Think about the comic books that actually have like some heavy intellectual themes in it. They're European, right? Stuff like The Watchmen. So you already know what I'm talking about. Here in the U.S., we like superhero books, but it's not literature. It's not real literature. Well, in Europe they are. And Dylan Dog is like that. Now, some of you may know that Hollywood actually made an adaptation of Dylan Dog starring Brandon Routh, who I'll always remember as the vegan guy from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I'm a vegan. You remember that? I haven't even seen that adaptation. I've heard that it's actually good. It's kind of good as like a standalone Hollywood action flick, but it's not Dylan Dog. And this is what Hollywood always does. When they adapt little genre things like this, they'll just keep the name the same, but they'll change everything else about it because some producer decides like, oh, there's already a built-in audience for this, so we'll buy the rights to the name, but then we'll make our own fucking movie. And so while I've heard that the Brandon Routh adaptation is actually kind of decent, I can't bring myself to watch it because I know it's just going to hurt me inside to see something called Dylan Dog that isn't actually Dylan Dog. If you want to see Dylan Dog the movie, here it is. That's the real one. Anyway, so Cemetery Man. And here's, I was talking about the packaging, right? I kind of went off on a tangent. Frightfully funny. They didn't know how to sell this movie to an American audience. That's why it looks like this. Some marketing firm here in the U.S. was charged with the task. Anchor Bay or whatever film company got the rights to put this out in the U.S. They went to some advertising firm. They said, hey, we've got this film. Here it is. We need you to come up with like the box cover illustration and the posters for it so we can do a release here in the U.S. Somebody watched this, and 2 hours later they were like, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do with it. So they were like, fine, let's just bill it as a zombie film. We'll bill it as like a comedy because it's got some fun. They were fucking clueless. And how would you really market a movie like this? I mean, you can't. So the point is, don't judge a book by the cover. If you're looking at this box and you're saying, looks fucking stupid, it looks dumb, I could skip that one. No. Don't fucking judge this by the stupid ass box. It's not frightfully funny. It's not a cute zombie flick. It's much more than that. This is advertising malpractice right here. Just don't go by that at all. How could I put Del Morte Del Amore into words? how can I sell this to my audience? I can't. You just have to see it. All I could say is that if Jigsaw locked me in an escape room, gave me regular meals, but I was trapped there, like the guy from Old Boy. I just have to spend decades of my life in one room that I can't escape. You have one form of entertainment. You can have one book, one movie. This would be it! I could spend the rest of my life watching this fucking movie, and it wouldn't be a waste of time. It's so good. That's the word I was looking for. Good. It's so good. Watch Delamore. Watch Cemetery Man. And then watch it again. And if you think it sucks, you suck. There are a lot of people. I make this video right here fully cognizant of the fact that an appreciable segment of the audience are going to watch this movie and say, what the fuck is Chris Anderson talking about? This is garbage. All I can say is this film is a Rorschach test. It says more about you than it does about the movie. If you can only appreciate this on a few levels, I'm sorry, but the diagnosis is you're stupid. You're probably still a good person. I'm sure you have a lot of redeeming qualities. You might be a kind, generous soul. You might be talented in other ways. Maybe you're a great guy, okay? But you're not a genius. You just never... I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to break you the bad news, okay? But if you're a high IQ brain, Chad, you will never stop discovering levels in this movie. You could watch it 100 times and you'll still learn something new every time. And not just something new about the film, something new about yourself, some deeper truth. You'll peel back another layer from the riddle of existence itself through subsequent viewings of Cemetery Man. Watch Cemetery Man. This is the greatest film of all time. Is Michele Soavi my favorite director? No. If you really want to know, Don Coscarelli is my favorite director. Because reasons. Don't worry about it. But this film, this magnum opus, this masterpiece of the filmmaker's art, nothing compares to it. It's the Sistine Chapel ceiling of movies. It's just something that you have to ponder how it was made. How could something like this ever have been created? And there's not a snowball's chance in hell that anything like this will ever be made again. There will never be another film like Delamore. There never could be. That concludes this review of the greatest movie of all time. Keep it fake.